Hi, I'm Noelle Granger, Global Head of Equity Research, and I'm here live in New York City with our U.S. media analyst, Alexia Quadrani. In the rapidly shifting media landscape, sports rights are the ultimate prize, and we're here today to talk about the impact they're having on the media companies and the advertisers. Thanks for joining me, Alexia.
Thanks for having me.
So to get started, could you talk at a high level about actually how sports rights work and give us an update on the state of the industry today?
Absolutely. Sports rights are still extremely valuable, actually becoming more valuable every year, it seems, at least in this country. The way it works is you have these sports leagues, such as the NFL or the NBA, and they'll sell their content to a distributor, sometimes more than one distributor, a linear distributor, even some digital distributors, for a long period of time. Anywhere the contracts go anywhere from 1 year to sometimes 10 years. In fact, I'd say 10 years are becoming more and more common because the media companies would like the rights for a longer period of time. The numbers that these guys are paying are staggering. To give you perspective, the Monday Night Football package goes for just under $2 billion per year. And the prices just keep going up. We just saw the Thursday Night Football package for the NFL, recently be renewed by another broadcaster, and they paid 30% more per game than the previous broadcaster did, and it was widely known that the previous broadcaster was not making any money on the deal. So that's really quite incredible. And there's another example of it is the NBA, which was renewed a few years ago, and I believe they paid 3 times the price of the previous contract. So they keep going up and up and up. And again, these contracts are signed for many years. We actually won't see renewals for a lot of these, such as the NFL or the MLB or the NHL, into the next decade. And I believe the NBA goes even further out than that. Right now, the big sports rights are really with traditional media for the large part. There is some dabbling by the digital companies. For example, Amazon has some rights to Thursday Night Football, and I believe there's some baseball rights on Facebook, but by and large, the big rights stay now with traditional media companies.
So given that sports is one of the last appointment viewing opportunities on TV, does that mean that sports rights really give certain players competitive advantages?
Oh, absolutely. You really can drive a lot of benefits from having these sports rights. For example, from the advertising side, advertisers will pay top rates to advertise on these live sporting events. If you think about it, viewership of TV is generally declining. So if you have one area like sports rights where you're actually still seeing mass audience tune in to watch it live, advertisers realize this is so scarce and therefore even more valuable, so they're paying higher rates for it. Even in the instances where you're seeing some of the ratings go down in some live sports, you're still seeing pricing go up on those programming. The other way they make money from it as well, meaning the media companies, is they'll charge higher rates to the distributor, or they'll have more leverage in negotiating with the distributor, meaning the cable company, the telecom company, to pay for their network because they have this valuable content. So, so far they're doing quite well with it.
I would imagine that demographics are playing a big role in this part of the industry. So could you talk a little bit about, as we see younger audiences really streaming content, including live content, live sports, how do you see the advertisers adapting and innovating to these changes in behavior?
Oh, the advertisers are definitely adapting. They realize that consumption is changing and they want to change with it. Really, the ability to advertise on live digital streaming is the holy grail. That's where the advertisers want to be able to do effectively. If you think about it, that's where you can get a targeted, kind of a timely and an engaged audience. What we're waiting for is really to see, and it's starting to happen, I would say we're probably in the second inning, but what we're waiting for is to see a bigger mass of audience, a bigger scale watching the live streaming product. There's obviously more and more people watching digital viewing right now, but not watching a live streaming. So we need the big scale to make it very attractive for the advertiser. We also need better measurement so they know what their advertising is working, and of course more advancements in technology, but it's definitely the direction we're going.
So as that digital scale builds, how do you see the traditional media companies needing to adjust their offerings, their game plan, to be able to compete with these new channels where consumers are going to view live sports? And how does that affect the sports rights? market going forward?
It's definitely changing. I mean, the media companies recognize that consumption of media is changing and it's going more and more in a digital format. However, live events still work on TV. I mean, we're seeing, if you look at whether it's live sports or news or reality shows or some of the award shows, that's where you're still getting these massive audience, and it seems to be working for the media companies to continue to broadcast in that way. Having said that, they're absolutely cognizant that the world is changing. So they're all investing in their digital platforms, and they're all offering a lot of these live events in a streaming platform. And that is absolutely, I'd say, the main focus or a big focus of investment for these media companies, just to keep investing in the digital platforms and moving that direction.
They're doing their best to compete at this point. Let's talk about the broadcasters for a minute. How does sports rights deals impact them? And then, on the advertising side, as these prices just go higher and higher, how does that impact ad costs?
Absolutely. I mean, the broadcasters right now are sort of in a good spot, in the sense that I think the leagues still favor the broadcast in terms of where they'd like to see their content played, because the broadcasts still have the mass reach. If you think about a league and they're worried about audiences declining, the last thing you want to do is accelerate that decline by taking away from the big platform and moving to a digital platform where you may not have the same live audience. So right now, the leagues favor the broadcast and the cable networks. We'll see if that changes. The advertisers are also clinging to that, because that's where they get their live audience. But it'd be very interesting to see in the next round of renewals, when these contracts come up again, over in the next decade, if things change and maybe a digital player will come in with a huge checkbook, and maybe the leagues will realize this is the future. It'd be very interesting to see if it changes and we see one of these major contracts be awarded to a digital player.
It's clearly a very dynamic and interesting part of the media space right now. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Alexia, for sharing your time and your insights with us. And thank you, everybody, for joining. And if you'd like more insights from JPMorgan's global research team, please visit jpmorgan.com. Thank you.